Section 2, Illustrations, chapters 5 through 7. This section is called Illustrations because it gives us real-life stories and examples from the Old Testament. These stories aren't just for Sabbath school flannel boards, they are powerful case studies that show us what true education looks like in action, both when it goes right and when it goes wrong. Chapter 5, The Education of Israel. What's the big idea? After being slaves in Egypt for 400 years, the Israelites had a terrible education. They were taught to worship idols and think like slaves. So God had to completely re-educate a whole nation. He used the 40-year wilderness journey, the sanctuary, and his laws as a massive, hands-on school to teach them his character, his plan of salvation, and how to be a holy nation. How do we apply this? The Master Guide takeaway? Our clubs are a wilderness school. Think of your club as a safe place set apart from the world where God can teach young people. Campouts are our wilderness wanderings. It's where we teach trust, relying on God and each other, practical skills like manna, but with campfire cooking, and community. Use visual aids for spiritual lessons. The sanctuary was God's ultimate object lesson for the plan of salvation. As leaders, we need to do the same. Don't just tell an adventurer or pathfinder about Jesus' sacrifice. Use object lessons, build models, like a sanctuary model. Act out stories and new symbols to make the message stick. This is why our flag, uniform, and pledge are so important. They are symbols that teach bigger ideas. Chapter 6, The Schools of the Prophets. What's the big idea? When the education in the home started failing and Israel was falling into apostasy, God established special training centers called Schools of the Prophets, led by men like Samuel. These schools were created to raise up a generation of godly leaders who were balanced, spiritually grounded, and practical. In a way, they were the first Adventist academies. Let's break it down. Their curriculum was balanced. They studied the Bible, sacred history, and music, but they also learned practical skills like farming and carpentry. They didn't just study, they worked. The goal wasn't to get rich or famous, but to prepare for God's service. The result was powerful, effective leaders like David and Solomon in their early years. How do we apply this? The Master Guide takeaway? Master Guides is a school of the prophets. The Master Guide program is our modern version of these schools. We are being trained to be spiritual leaders in the church. This isn't just a club, it's a leadership development program with a divine purpose. Teach the dignity of labor. These schools taught that all honest work is honorable. We should do the same. When you do community service, teach your pathfinders to do their work with excellence as if they are doing it for Jesus himself. When you teach a craft or a vocational honor, you are teaching a holy principle. Chapter 7, Lives of Great Men. What's the big idea? This chapter zooms in on specific Bible heroes, Joseph, Daniel, Moses, Paul, to show how God's education principles work out in a real person's life, especially under pressure. Their stories prove that a character built on God's principles in youth is the secret to a life of integrity and great service. Let's break it down. Joseph and Daniel were like pathfinders taken from their club and thrown into the most corrupt public high schools and workplaces imaginable, Babylon and Egypt. How did they stand firm? Because the lessons they learned at home about diet, integrity, and trusting God were deeply rooted in their hearts. Moses had the world's best university education in Egypt, but it taught him to rely on force and his own strength. So, God had to put him in the school of the wilderness for 40 years to teach him humility, patience, and dependence on God. Only then was he ready for his true life work. How do we apply this? The Master Guide takeaway? Early training is everything. The values and habits you teach to a 7-year-old adventurer or a 12-year-old pathfinder are the very things that will protect them when they are 19 and facing major life choices. Never underestimate the power of what you are doing. You are preparing them for their Babylon. Faithfulness in little things. This is a huge theme. Teach your pathfinders that the person who is faithful in keeping their uniform neat, in being on time, or in kindly helping a younger club member is developing the character God can use for great things. Connect small everyday actions to the big picture of character. Character is the ultimate goal. The world needs people like Daniel who have character and can't be bought or sold. That is the end product of our ministry. We aren't just making good campers, we are cooperating with God to build characters for eternity. So, what's the big lesson from these illustrations? God's education plan isn't just a theory, it's a real, time-tested process that creates strong, faithful, and effective people for His kingdom.